I knew the room would explode the second he walked in. He was standing right there, framed in the golden arch of the ballroom door. Expensive suit. Cold eyes. That smug, untouchable look he always wore like a badge of honor. And right across from him, I stood. Next to his daughter. My bride. Her hand was wrapped around mine. Tight. Trusting. The cameras were flashing. The crowd was smiling. And the man who ruined my family just stepped into my world. To watch me marry his only child. But he had no idea. I invited him here to watch it all burn. He moved toward us, slow and confused. Probably wondering why I asked for him of all people, to give the wedding toast. But he had no clue what was waiting on that flash drive tucked into the wedding favors. Or the server I'd paid off. Or the documents waiting in every inbox connected to his name. He didn't know the board of directors had already seen the forensic audit. Or that the SEC agents in the room weren't guests. They were there to arrest him. I waited for the mic. Waited for the silence to fall. Then I spoke. Ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank you all for coming to this beautiful moment. It's not just a celebration of love. It's a celebration of truth. The tension rippled across the ballroom like thunder. He shifted. Eyes narrowing. And before we continue, I said, I want to dedicate this next moment to the man who taught me everything I know about betrayal, lies, and justice. I turned toward him. To my bride's father. The crowd clapped awkwardly. I smiled. Your sins are finally catching up to you. Right then, the projector flared to life behind us. Emails. Bank accounts. Fraud. Bribery. One by one, the files spilled onto the massive screen. His daughter turned to me, confused. Wait. What is this? I looked her in the eyes. I'm sorry. You didn't deserve this. But he did. Then I stepped aside, just as the security officers surged forward. He backed up. Furious. Cursing. Screaming that I'd tricked her. I trusted you, she screamed. And I said nothing. Because the truth was simple. I never loved her. I married her. To destroy him. They say revenge is best served cold. But when I found him, really found him, the rage inside me was white hot. It started in a coffee shop. Just another tired Tuesday. I was broke, pissed off, halfway through a job application I didn't even care about, when the name flashed across the TV behind the bar. Darius Langston. My blood froze. The reporter said. One of the top real estate moguls in the state. His recent donation to the Children's Hospital has raised over $8 million. I nearly choked on my drink. A children's hospital? That man had the audacity to stand there smiling, flashing his fake generosity, after what he did to my father. I got up. I didn't even finish the drink. I just walked outside, into the rain. And I knew right then, the past wasn't dead. It was standing on stage. Rich. Celebrated. Worshipped. Living a life he stole from us. My dad had worked for his company for 15 years. Loyal. Smart. Honest to a fault. Until one day, they found irregularities in the accounts. Millions gone. And guess whose name was on the paper trail? My dad's. Except, he didn't steal a cent. Langston set him up. Buried him in fake documents and forged signatures. Used him as a scapegoat to cover a much bigger fraud. No trial. No chance to explain. Just scandal, shame, headlines. And then. One night, my father drove into the river. They called it suicide. I called it murder. We lost everything. Our home. Our family name. Even my mother gave up and disappeared into the bottle. And me? I was just a kid, but I remembered everything. The smell of coffee on his work shirts. The way he smiled when I told him I got into college. And the broken look in his eyes when the police showed up at our door. I spent years trying to survive. One underpaid job after another. No time for dreams. No space for healing. Just grind. Guilt. And rage. But seeing that man's face again, it cracked something open in me. That night, I started digging. Old files. Leaked memos. Archived articles. And then, I found it. A photograph. Darius Langston, standing next to a young woman in a green dress. Caption. Langston celebrates daughter's graduation at Howstone University. Her name was Camille. She looked kind. Innocent. Like she had no idea who her father really was. And right then, it clicked. She would be my way in. I didn't follow her right away. That would have been reckless. Obvious. I waited. Watched. Learned everything I could. Her name was Camille Langston. Age 24. Graduated top of her class in architecture. Worked at a boutique design firm in the city. No scandals. No boyfriends in the press. Basically, she was clean. Which made it perfect. She was the only crack in his bulletproof empire. Because while Darius Langston had walls, his daughter, she left hers wide open. I started with the obvious. I bumped into her outside her office building. She dropped her phone, I picked it up. Gave a charming smile. Walked away. The next day. Same cafe she went to. I ordered what she ordered. Acted surprised when she noticed. Wait, you like cinnamon oat milk too? I smiled. Only way I can drink it. It didn't take long. She was warm. Curious. A little guarded, sure, but not suspicious. A week later, we were talking. 2 weeks, and we were texting. By the end of the month, we were dating. I didn't rush it. Didn't sleep with her too fast. I made it feel real. Safe. Honest. She told me about her job. About her dreams. About how complicated her relationship with her dad had become since her mom passed. She said he'd been controlling. Cold. Always watching. Always judging. Perfect. I was careful with every word. Never too eager. Never too interested in her last name. I made her laugh. Made her feel like I saw her, not her family name. But all the while, I was taking mental notes. Where she lived. Where she kept her laptop. How often she called her father. Passwords. Patterns. Habits. She introduced me to her friends. I passed every test. They loved me. By the 3rd month, she said. You're the most real person I've ever met. I almost choked on the irony. But I smiled and kissed her forehead. And said. I feel the same way. Inside, I was already planning the proposal. But it wasn't just about getting close to Camille. It was about using her access, her trust, to dismantle her father's kingdom from the inside. And she had no idea. That every step she took closer to me brought him closer to ruin. It had to look perfect. Not just for Camille, but for the cameras. For him. I proposed on the balcony of a luxury hotel. The skyline behind us. Champagne on ice. And a photographer I'd secretly hired hiding in the shadows. She gasped. Put her hands over her mouth. And when I got down on one knee, she said yes through tears. It was exactly what I needed. Not just her heart, but her father's attention. Because now I was family. The moment our engagement went public, the vultures circled. Socialites. Investors. Press. And at the center of it all, Darius Langston. Who, for the first time in 20 years, had to look me in the eye. Camille arranged a dinner. Said her father wanted to get to know the man marrying his daughter. I laughed. She had no idea the man sitting across from her father that night had once stared at eviction notices with her father's name on them. Had once heard his own father cry in the dark after losing everything to that monster. I wore a fitted gray suit. Wristwatch just expensive enough to signal wealth, but humble enough to avoid suspicion. I was exactly what he expected. Clean. Polished. Grateful. He greeted me with that slick smile. "Daniel, is it?" he said, extending his hand. I shook it. Firm. Steady. Our eyes locked. He didn't recognize me, not yet. And I made sure to keep it that way. Dinner was stiff. He asked all the usual questions. What do you do? What are your intentions? How do you plan to support Camille? I gave all the right answers. Entrepreneur. Starting a boutique consulting firm. Focused on clean growth and long-term partnerships. Camille beamed beside me. When dessert came, he stood and said, "I have something for you." He left the dining room. Returned with a small box. Inside was a custom pen. Gold. Engraved. DL on one side. My initials on the other. "It's tradition in our family," he said, "to gift the man who joins us." I took it with a smile. "Thank you. I'll use it to sign the marriage license." We shook again. But this time, he lingered. Staring at me a little too long. Later that night, Camille fell asleep beside me. Exhausted from the excitement. I slipped out of bed. Went into her study. And opened her laptop, the one she used for work. And family business. She was still logged in. Emails. Calendars. Even encrypted folders. And one marked. Langston Trust, Private Archive. That's when I knew. If I could get access to that vault. To his safe, where the originals were stored. I could expose everything. It took weeks. But eventually, I got my chance. He invited us to a family retreat at his countryside estate. Big. Remote. Secure. But I had Camille's trust. And when she handed me her father's office keys, asking me to grab the blueprints she forgot for a client, I didn't hesitate. I found the safe behind a bookshelf. Fingerprint activated. Old school. But I didn't need to open it. I just needed to plant something. A small flash drive. Encrypted. Hidden in a compartment behind the shelf, where it would go unnoticed. Inside. A trail of digital breadcrumbs. Enough to connect the offshore accounts, to the fake charities, to the shell companies under his name. I'd frame it to look like a whistleblower leak. One he never saw coming. That night, I toasted wine with the man who killed my father. And I smiled. Because the match had already been lit. He just hadn't seen the smoke yet. I always knew the hardest part wouldn't be breaking him. It would be keeping her from seeing who I really was, before it was too late. At first, everything stayed smooth. The wedding planning was in full swing. Venues, fittings, flower samples, Camille was glowing. But the closer we got to the big day, the more cracks started to show. And not in her. In me. Because rage. Rage doesn't sit quietly forever. It started small. We were at a dress fitting, and she mentioned her dad would be walking her down the aisle. I flinched. Just slightly. But she saw it. "You okay?" she asked, touching my arm. I forced a laugh. "Yeah, just, allergic to tulle." She smiled, but her eyes didn't leave mine. Not fully. Then it happened again, at a charity gala. I watched her father pose for photos with a senator whose campaign he funded. All smiles. All lies. Camille reached for my hand, but mine was clenched so tight my knuckles had gone white. She whispered. "Babe, you sure you're okay? You've been tense lately." That night, she waited until we got home. Took off her earrings slowly. Then turned to me and said something that stopped me cold. "You've never asked about my mother." I blinked. She continued. "You know everything about me, but you've never once asked what she was like. Or how she died." I swallowed hard. "Didn't want to push," I said. "Figured you'd tell me when you were ready." But it was a lie. The truth? I already knew. Darius Langston had driven her into silence, into pills, into darkness. Camille studied me. Not angry. Just, searching. Then she said something I didn't expect. "My dad doesn't trust you." I froze. "He's been asking questions," she said. "About your past. Your family. He thinks there's something you're hiding." I didn't respond right away. She added. "And honestly, I've started to wonder the same thing." That moment. It felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, and feeling the ground shift beneath you. I couldn't afford doubt. Not from her. Not now. So I leaned in. Looked her straight in the eyes. "You want the truth?" I said softly. "My father died when I was 17. We weren't rich. We weren't famous. I don't talk about it because, it still hurts." That part was true. I let my voice crack. Just enough. And her eyes softened. She touched my face. "I'm sorry," she whispered. I didn't know. I kissed her. Held her longer than usual. Because deep down, I could feel it. The mask was slipping. And no matter how careful I was, I couldn't hide forever. He cornered me after a fundraiser. Late night. Empty hallway. The guests were still inside sipping champagne and pretending to care about inner-city youth. But he had other business. "Daniel," he said. Voice low. Cold. "Walk with me." I didn't move. Now. So I followed. We went through a side door, into the back garden. The wind was sharp. The air smelled like cigars and roses. There were no cameras here. No witnesses. Just him, and me. He didn't waste time. "I had you checked out," he said. I stayed quiet. "Your name's clean. Your resume is impressive. Your story checks out." He paused. "But you don't feel real." I cocked my head. "What's that supposed to mean?" "You're too perfect," he said. "Too polished. Too smooth. Camille is emotional. She's vulnerable. And you? You knew exactly what to say to make her trust you." I smirked. "You're upset because your daughter's finally happy." He stepped closer. "That's not happiness. That's infatuation. You got your claws into her before I could vet you. And that? That was your first mistake." I tilted my head. "And the second?" I asked. He leaned in. "Not knowing who you're dealing with." Ah. There it was. The mask peeled back, just for a second. And underneath? The real Darius Langston. Arrogant. Threatening. Dangerous. I let the silence stretch. Let the tension coil between us like wire. Then I said, "You're scared." He laughed. "Of you?" "No," I said. "Of the truth. Of Camille finding out who you really are. What you've really done." His jaw tightened. "I've survived bigger threats than some soft-spoken con artist with a pretty face. And yet here we are," I whispered. "Just you. Me. And the growing suspicion that you've already lost her." That hit him. His nostrils flared. His hand twitched, like he wanted to hit me, but couldn't risk the scandal. "I'm warning you," he said. "If you ever try to hurt Camille, I'll bury you so deep, no one will even remember you existed." I stepped closer. Almost nose to nose. "You already buried one man, Darius. You think I forgot that?" His eyes widened, just for a second. And right then, I knew. He remembered my father. He remembered everything. I walked away before he could speak. He didn't follow. Didn't call out. Because for the first time, he wasn't sure who held the power anymore. I should have been more careful. But when you're living two lives, eventually, one bleeds into the other. It happened on a Thursday night. Camille was supposed to be out with friends. Dinner and cocktails. A girls' night. I thought I had hours. I sat at my desk, digging through a folder of exported PDFs. Financial records, wire transfers, shell companies. The same data I'd copied from her father's cloud account 3 nights earlier. I didn't hear the front door open. Didn't hear her heels cross the floor. I was too deep into the numbers. When her voice cut the air like a blade. "Whose files are those?" I spun. Her face was pale. Eyes wide. Brows drawn tight. I shut the laptop in a flash, but it was too late. She'd seen the screen. The name. Darius Langston. My mouth opened, but nothing came out. She stepped forward. "Why are you digging through my father's finances?" "Camille. I can explain." "Explain?" Her voice cracked. "You said you barely knew him. You said you didn't care about his money or legacy. So why the hell are you running audits on his private accounts?" I stood up slowly. "I wasn't spying. I was protecting you." That was the lie I reached for, fast, sharp, believable. She folded her arms. "From what?" "He's hiding things," I said. "Things that could destroy everything he built. I didn't want to tell you until I was sure." Her face twisted. "You're investigating my father behind my back, and somehow that's supposed to make me feel safe." I stepped closer. Lowered my voice. "Camille, there are things about him you don't know." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Like what?" I hesitated. And in that split second, she knew I was holding back. "You're not who you said you were," she murmured. "You never were." I reached for her hand, but she pulled away. "I need time," she said. Then she walked out. No screaming. No slamming doors. Just that eerie, shattering calm. I didn't chase her. Not this time. Because I couldn't lie anymore. Not to her. Not when I knew she'd seen too much. But what I could do was finish what I started. Because even if I lost her, Darius Langston would still go down. And if Camille got caught in the crossfire, then maybe that was the price of justice. I launched it at 6 a.m. Timing was everything. By the time most people woke up, the news cycle was already burning. The leak started on a finance blog. Anonymous. Low profile. But credible. A 132-page document dump. Clear. Verified. Brutal. Offshore accounts. Bribes. Stolen charity funds. Even falsified government contracts. Within 30 minutes, it hit social media. Hashtag Langston Leaks was trending by 7 a.m. By 9 o'clock, every major news outlet had picked it up. And by noon, Darius Langston was no longer a titan. He was a crook. A thief. A national disgrace. I watched it all unfold from the same apartment Camille had stormed out of the night before. My phone was vibrating non-stop. Missed calls. News alerts. Texts from contacts I hadn't spoken to in years. But one message hit different. Unknown number. You think you've won. But this isn't over. I smiled. Finally, he was rattled. Across town, Camille was holed up in her best friend's condo. She hadn't called. Hadn't posted. Radio silence. And I knew why. Because now, she didn't know who to believe. Her father? Or the man who'd lied to get close, but told the truth in the end? She wasn't ready to face me. Not yet. And honestly, I didn't blame her. Because what I'd just done, it didn't just destroy her father's empire. It nuked everything. Board members resigned. Charities pulled out. Langston Enterprises stock dropped 42% in a single day. By nightfall, federal investigators had already raided one of his holding companies. And reporters were camping outside his penthouse. The man who once moved politicians like chess pieces was now hiding behind blackout curtains. And me? I was finally breathing. For the first time since my father's death. The scales had started to balance. But I knew this wasn't the end. Darius wasn't the type to fade quietly. And Camille? She was the wild card now. I didn't know if she'd forgive me. Didn't know if she'd return. Cornered men but don't beg. They bite. And Darius Langston? He was cornered, stripped of everything except one weapon, desperation. It started 3 days after the leak. I came home to find the door to my apartment slightly open. Not busted. Not kicked in. Just, open. I froze. Every instinct in me screamed trap. But I stepped inside anyway. The place was untouched. Quiet. But something felt off. Then I saw it. On the kitchen counter. A single item. My father's broken wristwatch. The one he wore every day. The one recovered from the river the night they found him. Except that watch had been locked in a drawer, in a storage unit, 2 cities away. How the hell did he get it? My blood turned to ice. There was no note. No message. Just the ticking of the shattered timepiece. I knew what it meant. He wasn't just trying to scare me. He was reminding me. I know who you are. I know what you love. And I'm not done. That night, I didn't sleep. I watched the windows. Checked the locks. Even called a friend who worked private security. But the next day, he hit harder. Camille's name started showing up in headlines. Not as the daughter of a disgraced billionaire. But as an accomplice. Articles spun stories. Photos of her smiling beside her father, rebranded as proof she helped him cover it up. Anonymous tips. False witnesses. All pointing fingers at Camille. It was him. He was trying to drag her down with him. If he was going down, he wanted her reputation destroyed too. He didn't care about her. Not really. She was just collateral damage in his war to stay alive. That's when I knew. He hadn't just lost his fortune. He'd lost his mind. I tried calling her. 5 times. No answer. Then I got a message, finally. Camille. Meet me. Tonight. Alone. No explanation. Just an address. A small park in the hills. My heart pounded. I didn't know if it was a trap. Didn't know if she was angry, hurt, afraid. But I went. Because I needed her to understand. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. Her father was trying to destroy her too. And I wasn't going to let that happen. She was already there when I arrived. Standing beneath the old iron lamppost. Hair tied back. No makeup. No jewelry. Just a coat, and those same eyes that used to light up when I walked into a room. Now. They didn't sparkle. They searched. I took a few steps toward her. Stopped. The air between us, thick with everything unsaid. She didn't speak at first. Just looked at me like I was a stranger. Then softly. Tell me it wasn't all fake. I opened my mouth. Closed it again. Because the truth was complicated, and brutal. So I gave her the only thing that mattered. I didn't mean to fall in love with you. Her jaw clenched. But you did, I said. Somewhere in the middle of the lies and the planning and the rage. I fell for you. And that was never part of the plan. She shook her head. Don't do that. Do what? Make this harder than it already is. She looked down at her hands. Then back at me. You used me. Lied to me. You sat across from my father, knowing he'd ruined your life, and said nothing. Because I wanted him to feel safe, I said. I wanted him to think he was untouchable, just long enough for me to gut everything he built. Her voice rose. And you did. You destroyed him. But now. He's coming after me. He's dragging my name through the mud. I've lost clients, friends, everything. I didn't do anything, and I'm still paying the price. My chest tightened. I never meant for that. She stepped forward. But you let it happen. Silence. Then she said it, the line that hit me harder than any of his threats ever could. I don't know who I hate more right now. Him, or you. It was quiet for a long moment. The wind whispered through the trees. And then, she pulled something from her coat pocket. A small black envelope. My heart stopped. What's that? I asked. She held it out. Proof. I took it with trembling hands. Opened it. Inside was a USB drive. Her voice was cold now. He recorded everything. You, me, the threats, the safe, all of it. I found it hidden in a drawer in his office. I looked up. And you're giving this to me? I'm giving you a choice, she said. Her eyes welled up. You can leak that drive, finish what you started, and destroy him forever. Or, you can give it to me. Let me go. Let us go. And maybe, we can try to rebuild something that feels real. The air left my lungs. Camille. She stepped back. You can't have both. So what's it gonna be? I didn't sleep that night. The envelope sat on the table. Silent. Heavy. Like it knew what it held, and what I had to become to use it. I stared at it until morning. Flashes of my father's face ran through my head. His voice. His laugh. The sound of my mother's sobs when the police told us they'd found the car in the river. He deserved justice. Not half of it. All of it. But then Camille's voice crept in too. The way she looked at me under that street lamp. Not like a woman who'd been fooled. But like someone holding on by the last shred of hope. She'd given me the drive. Trusted me, again. And now I had to choose. End him completely, or walk away and try to rebuild something real. There was no right answer. So I gave myself one rule. Don't act out of emotion. Act out of purpose. And my purpose had always been justice. Not just revenge. Not collateral damage. Justice. By noon, I was standing outside an anonymous drop box in front of the federal courthouse. No fanfare. No speeches. Just me. And the envelope. I slid it in. Just like that. Gone. In 48 hours, everything in that drive would be in the hands of people who couldn't be bought. The kind of people Darius Langston spent decades avoiding. This wasn't a leak. This wasn't public humiliation. This was prosecution. Real charges. Real consequences. Real prison. And Camille? She wouldn't be part of it. I made sure of that. Redacted her mentions. Scrubbed every trace. Protected her name in every file I submitted. She didn't deserve to go down with him. Not anymore. But the cost? She was gone. I went to the park the next evening. Same spot. Same bench. But she never came. I sat there alone. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel fire in my chest. I felt peace. Bitter. Quiet. But real. I had done what I came to do. I just didn't know what came next. The ballroom was full. Cameras. Laughter. Champagne flutes held high. And at the center of it all, me. In a tuxedo. Standing at the altar. Waiting for a woman who might never come. The guests whispered. The music played. And somewhere, behind those grand white doors, Camille was deciding whether to walk toward me. Or vanish for good. I wasn't sure which one I deserved. I'd torn her life apart. Shattered everything she believed in. And even though I'd saved her from the fire, I was the one who lit the match. But then, the doors opened. She stepped out. In white. No smile. No tears. Just steady, quiet grace. Every head turned. Every eye watched her move down that aisle like a storm with no thunder. And when she reached me, she didn't speak right away. She just leaned in. Whispered low, so no one else could hear. I read the files. All of it. You protected me. You didn't have to. I swallowed. You shouldn't be here. She nodded. I know. The officiant began. Words floated above us like fog, dearly beloved, sacred union, honor and truth. I barely heard any of it. Then came the question. Do you, Daniel? Camille held up her hand. I'm sorry, she said aloud. Before we continue, I need to say something. The room froze. Even the cameras stopped clicking. She turned to face the crowd. My father is not here today. And he won't be. A quiet murmur rippled across the room. He's been indicted for fraud, racketeering, and obstruction of justice. And while most of you came here expecting a fairy tale ending, the truth is, this wasn't a fairy tale. She turned back to me. It started with lies. With secrets. With betrayal. I lowered my head. But it ends, with choice. She reached into her dress and pulled out a folded paper. She handed it to me. I opened it. It was a marriage license. Signed. Sealed. But not by us. By her, and me. Yesterday. Before the ceremony. Before the crowd. Before the show. I filed it, she said. Before I decided if I could trust you. The crowd gasped. Then she leaned in again. Whispered in my ear. You married your enemy's daughter to ruin him. And I married my father's enemy to set myself free. My breath caught. And just like that. She turned and walked away. No bouquet toss.